welcome to my channel, Levkotea. Today I want to talk about a few things with you, kind of like a sit down and chat kind of way. So the themes for today are my eating disorder and my eating disorder recovery, some life advice I can give you as a 17-year-old to 17-year-olds, or maybe even in your 20s, whatever. And then just some things about this channel and what's been going on. Just kind of like a podcast episode, just catching up. Right to the start, I want to talk about something I've kind of like always wanted to talk about, which is my eating disorder recovery story. Better said, my eating disorder story. And since it's been like 4 years that I'm struggling now, or that I struggled, the timeline's a little bit messy, which is why I wrote it down in my journal. So I would say let's get into it. Just a quick trigger warning. If eating disorders are a trigger for you, you should probably click off now, else or skip to the other part of the video. I will see you in my next one. That's totally fine. There won't be any mentioning of weight or BMI, etc., but I will talk about some eating disorder behavior, what I've been through, treatments, etc. So if there's anything that triggers you, please kindly skip to the other part of this video or just skip completely. I won't be mad. Okay, so while I search for my notes, I want to answer a question I've been asked since these 4 years over and over and over again. How did you know, do you know if there was like a trigger that started your eating disorder? So I would like to say that there's a lot of compounds that made me have an eating disorder, that made me get into an eating disorder, but I vaguely remember one interaction I had with a very dear person during COVID. She texted me if I wanted to go on a walk, and I just didn't want to. Then she sent me pictures of these like stock images of obese women eating cakes, cookies, cupcakes, whatever. And she commented below, "That would be you if you don't go on a walk with me right now." And it's very sad because that was family, and I was just, I don't know, but something in that moment clicked for me, especially since COVID was in general a very hard time for all of us. But when somebody asks me, did you have a certain trigger, I probably would say that one. And I was just generally like in COVID, there was a lot out of my control, which was mainly the main trigger point, which made me have an eating disorder, sadly. So it started when I was 13, and I started restricting, and I had a very bad body image. So I was always very, very tall, and I took up a lot of space, which I'm allowed to, for what I know now. And for that time, my parents also divorced, which was never really a struggle for me. I'll say that till I die, because it really wasn't that much of a problem for me at that time. But however, my parents got me into therapy again. For a quick background check, I was in therapy when I was 8 or 9, I think, because I had a very bad paranoia. But then I was there for discussing my parents, or better said, like my parents' divorce. But once all that eating disorder stuff started, I mainly talked about that. And there's actually the breaking point where everything could have been changed. So I don't know if you know the term butterfly effect, but if you do, then this is probably one of those moments. I had a very bad therapist. She was so pessimistic, and she was telling me, oh, you will, there's like no hope for you. You will also know how much calories a piece of toast has in 4 years, 5 years, 10 years. Like there's no such thing as like full recovery. She literally told me that straight up. And I was like, okay, let me get my shit out of here, because that's literally not what I need to like hear, you know? Sadly, I did not realize that she was actually bad until a little bit later, when I actually found another therapist. But that was a very blurry time. And with 14, 15, everything kind of got out of hand. I didn't have a therapist. It was kind of my lowest point of my life. I got into a clinic because I had an attempt, and that bad therapist sent me there 2 months after I told her. So it was kind of like a little bit weird, but whatever. And I've been there a week, and I lost the sense of time, even though it was just 1 week. I was so out of my routine when I got back home, etc. And I think with 14 or 15, I started using laxatives. So this is actually categorized as bulimia, whereas before I was only restricting, which is anorexia. With starting laxatives, I did damage to my body that I can never reverse again. And I'm so painfully sorry for my self back then. So in that time, I actually got a dietitian, and she was so kind, but she wasn't a therapist, and I needed a therapist. So I searched and searched and searched, and finally found a therapist, which is still my therapist today, and she's such a sweetheart. And I actually got treatment that I needed. So that was probably like everything was going down, and then it went up again, which is still so in my heart that she helped me so much. And from that point on, I started to get a little bit better. So I started laxatives, and I started lying with it as well. So you have to know that I took amounts that are not reasonable, and you have to start lying, because while you're missing out on school, it hurts so much. I probably couldn't go to school some days. You have to find lies where you're running out of money again, where you need another 10 euros, etc., etc. It was just all so stressful, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. And it really got to the point where I was addicted to laxatives, and I just couldn't stop. Until I did for 9 months, and then I relapsed again. And this is basically the whole cycle of those 4 years, which is why all the time is very blurry. So there was always a point where I was like, okay, that's it. I'm recovering. I can't take this anymore. If you have to put me in a clinic, do so. I don't care. And then something went out of my control. Let's say school was a little too hard. I was fighting with some of my friends. I was fighting with some family, whatever. I relapsed. Not certainly into bulimia, but often also just back to restricting. So it was very hard to recover, especially because I was an eating disorder Twitter and eating disorder Tumblr, which I was always like, but there's a positive side of it as well, and all these people are encouraging me to recover. And in fact, it was just triggered by it all the time. And since I've deleted it, I've also deleted Instagram. The only platform I actively use is actually YouTube. So yeah, I've been doing so much better. And if you are currently on eating disorder Twitter and you really want to recover, or you're just thinking of it in the back of your head, delete Twitter, raw dig recovery, and then start to feel. But whatever you do, try not to relapse. Find other things. Like any other healthy coping mechanism you can do that instead. Because it always got worse and worse. And every time I tried to recover, I was like, okay, nobody gives a shit anymore. I've tried this 100 times now. Nobody cares anymore. And now I can just say, maybe no one cares, but I do. Because why should other people care? I've done this 100 times. They always support me still. And just because I've did it so often doesn't mean, people don't have to care for you to get better. Okay, so 16 was very rough. There was a drastic change in appearance. When I was 15, I had very short red hair, and I was very androgynous, I'd say, because I felt like that. But I also was in a very heavy identity crisis, which also fueled my eating disorder, you know? I made a drastic change in my appearance. I dyed my hair blonde. I started wearing the things I felt really comfortable in. And then school got more serious. I relapsed again. It repeated patterns. And then I overdosed on laxative. And that was probably the worst night I've ever had. So I overdosed and I was like, shit, I don't want to off myself. So I called a clinic and told them, hey, I wanted to do it anonymous. In Austria, there's anonymous hotline for teenagers who are having trouble. I wanted to call there, but they didn't pick up, ironically. So I called the clinic. I'm like, I took too many laxatives and I'm scared something's gonna happen to me. And the woman on the phone goes, well, I'll have to contact your mother and the intoxicant section and ask if it's dangerously, and if it's dangerous, and if it is, I'll have to call an ambulance on you. And I was like, oh, that's not what I wanted. And she was like, you have to call your mother or I will. My mother on that night, she was out. I was so scared. I called her, tears rolling down my face. Mom, I did a bad thing. Somebody's gonna call you right now. I feel terrible about it. I shouldn't have done it. I overdosed on laxatives. I'm so sorry I relapsed, blah, 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 blah. She came home and she was the sweetest person ever. I love my mom so much and I'm so grateful that I have somebody like her. She took care of me the whole night. And it was very painful, but I got through it. And I swore to myself that I would never use laxatives again. But exactly that's what I did. I literally used laxatives again. So addiction was very heavy in my safe patterns. So yeah, it was getting obsessive all over again. I exercised a lot. I restricted. I also binged a lot, obviously, because I heard a lot of people don't binge because they have the self-control, but actually my body just doesn't work that way. I ate very, very little. Very little. I'm not going to announce any calories here, but I ate very little and I had a limit. And it would happen once at least every week that I would just eat everything I could find, and I felt so bad after it. One time I actually felt so bad I couldn't get out of bed because my stomach was hurting so much because it was so full. It was horrible, seriously. So at 17, there was a breaking point. So I got a boyfriend, right? I don't know if I told you this already, but yeah, I got a boyfriend. And I took therapy seriously. My body image was kind of a very wobbly place. There was days where I felt like nobody should see me and I should never go outside of the house again. And then there were days where I felt so confident in myself that I loved it. I loved it so much and I was radiating so much positivity. And there's been a lot of conversations in my relationship about food, my body image, his body, my body, the whole relationship and what it has to do with my eating disorders, convos, talking about going into a clinic, etc. So it was all very open because obviously I can talk to my partner about it. But there was a time where I relapsed again. I don't even know why it happened, but I felt so bad that I drove to my grandmother's house. Where I was alone, and I didn't eat at all for 2 to 3 days. I walked 10,000 steps a day and worked out. And my boyfriend was on holiday, and he kind of like figured it out what I was doing, and then everything tilted in the wrong direction. He said everything was too much for him, and that I should that he really wished for me that I get better, that I get treatment, that I actually take recovery seriously, because it can't go on like that. And I really was like, you're right, but I'm not ready to take that step yet. And then I reflected that, and he said, maybe you just need to hear it, but you're never going to be ready for that step. I will always support you, and there will be some ups and downs, but that he really, really wants me to get better, not only for my sake, but also for his, so he doesn't always have to worry about me. And that really hit close to home. I know people always say, don't recover for somebody else, recover for yourself. And I agree, I totally agree, but sometimes you need to hear it from a person you love so dearly to actually take action. Okay, so that night, I promised my boyfriend that I'm going to take it seriously. I'm going to try one last time for all. I will eat healthy, I will find a good balance, I will eat when I'm hungry, I'll eat what I crave, I'll try to stabilize my body image, etc., etc. And I was so motivated, and I actually gone through with it. I told my therapist, Christina, I'm going to do this. I'm going to recover one last time for all. I'm going to leave this behind me because I want to, and because this time I'm actually going to take it seriously. The problem before this certain recovery was I always said, well, I can lose weight later as well. I can lose weight when I move out. There's no hurry. I can do it later, which is why I always relapsed. I always relapsed in the same old patterns because I always was like, well, maybe I can recover now and then just do it all over again. And that's just such a sick mindset. Like, if I told you everything I was thinking during that period of my life, you would call me crazy. Because it is. The things an eating disorder makes you do is so crazy. Just listing some things, I wanted to get sick because then I wouldn't have to eat. I literally thought about someone in my not so close family dying, so I would have enough reason not to eat because out of grief, but that I wasn't so emotionally attached to that person that I was really, really grieving hard, which should tell you enough. Sometimes I fantasized about cancer, which actually, this is something I've never seen anybody talk about, but it's such a big thing happening in this community or in this certain type of mental illness. for everyone who I've talked to, they always said there's some shameful thoughts they don't even take seriously, obviously, but they are there, and that's the point. And personally, it's just so hard because you can't tell anybody these thoughts. And now that I know it was just my mental illness and it was my eating disorder telling me all of it, I feel a little bit better. Still, no excuse thinking such things, but it's horrible. And this whole eating disorder, this whole mental illness is so horrible. You can't put it together. And it makes you do things and say things and think things you can't even process, because why would I want that? And it's horrible. You compare yourself to everyone and everything. I literally compared myself to children and to light poles and sticks, like inanimate objects, but also all my peers, all my friends, all my teachers, everything. And there's also something called Finspo on this like community thing, and it was never thin enough. I felt if I don't from this illness, I'm not valid. And that was the whole problem. So, yeah. I started reflecting a lot and it got better, and I have some recovery plans. I'm actually doing very, very well. I'm going plant-based at the moment. I've never felt I've never felt better in my life than I do right now. I have a lovely boyfriend. I'm getting along so well with my family at the moment. School is still okay. This is my last year. I have future plans, but for recovery, I'm planning on going to a day clinic where you cook together and eat together, and then you have one-on-one therapy and group therapy. I will see about that because I'm actually doing so much better that I think I'm okay with just my current therapy. So yeah, I'm getting help from my boyfriend, my mom, my friends, even after years of failing, which I'm so grateful for. And I'm doing much better, and I'm happy about the decisions. I gained weight. I think since those 4 years, it's always been an up and down, obviously, but I've always bounced back to the same weight I was, which is okay, because if you can maintain healthy habits, your body will assume the shape that's best for you. If you're not sick, if you're not heavily overweight and feel unwell and have problems, or are underweight and have problems, then there's no reason you should change something. If you work out or move your body at least once a day, or if you drink enough water, eat relatively healthy, and fuel your healthy relationships, there's the weight is the least thing you should care about. And learning that is so important. I still feel now that sometimes I'm so tall and so huge and I take up so much space, but I'm allowed to, such as like you are allowed to take up space, my friends are allowed to take up space, I can take up space. And my body image is so weird, and I'll just have to accept that I'm me, and I'm probably not going to change. Like my appearance, my body is probably not going to change with my current habits. I mean, probably like from going to the gym and stuff, because that's what I'm targeting. But my weight, it's fine as it is. I'm not weighing myself anymore. I didn't only gain weight, I also gained the experiences, the memories, and a lot more. I can go out to eat again. I can buy me a snack and not think about the calories. I can finally drink sugary drinks if I crave them. and I can eat a balanced diet. And I'm so grateful that I got this strength within me. And every day I wake up grateful for waking up another day where I can like gather all these opportunities and tell people I love them and tell myself I love myself and eat good food and not worry about my body too much. Because it's just like, if I can tell you one thing, there will be never will there be a time where you will feel sick enough or ready for recovery. And at one time, there will just not be the point where you can recover, because there's something that really shocked me. I heard from someone that she was in a clinic, and there was a woman, I think her late 20s, maybe starting 30, and she was so sick and she really wanted to recover, but her organs were already so deposed and failing that even if she wanted to and how hard she tried, she wouldn't have the opportunity to recover. So if you keep on waiting for the moment when you feel ready, that will maybe not even come. So you should just take your strength, talk to people. First step is always talk to people, and then get your shit together and try. Try over 4 years if you want to, like me. Try over and over again, and maybe it's going to get easier, maybe it's going to get harder, but don't stop trying. There's always hope if you want to. If it's not too late, there's always hope. And I feel like so many young girls and boys are like getting into an eating disorder because of social media and because things people say. And I feel like we all should just be a little bit kinder to each other. It's not that hard. And even saying somebody's outfit is cool or that the color really suits them, it makes a difference. And so it also makes a difference if you say somebody looks fat in something or they look overly skinny. It's like, it's not gonna do good. So just be mindful with your words and try to keep that in mind. So coming to the life advice I want to give you, there's no one out there that can tell you what to do except for yourself. If it feels right, do it. There's so many different people in the world, and you're going to see one day, even if you don't see it now, that you are special as you are and you're right as you are, and you are here to be grateful and give love and be the purest form that you are. Enjoy the things you love, do more of it. Find things you can struggle with, work on them, etc. Life is such an amazing experience, even if it sometimes doesn't seem like it. Some days I cry so much that I'm alive, and some days I cry so much that I'm alive and I get to experience all of this, and it's beautiful. And I just hope that you can have at least a little peace in your mind. And if you're currently struggling with eating disorder, there's help. If you want to talk to me personally, you can always message me via my email. It's linked in the biography. Sadly, I don't have any Instagram anymore, but if it's very urgent, I check it like once, twice every month. So feel free to do that as well. And don't let anybody steal your spark. Also, if you have your own eating disorder recovery story, please share it in the comments, because reading something that is so hopeful and bounces together is so healthy for my mind and for others. And maybe somebody's reading through this and maybe even watching this, and maybe for a tiny second thought, maybe I can do it too. And that's what counts. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a little bit different from what I post, but what I said in the beginning, I want to talk about that as well, which I'm going to do now. I really just want to post what I want to. And I think that's reasonable. If I want to post 30-minute videos like this, I can, because nobody's stopping me. And I've always felt like I push myself so hard to do this and that for my audience. And I've lost over 1,000 followers now. And it's fine, because I like to do it. It's a hobby of mine. I like to talk to the camera. I like to share my stories, and I like to edit videos and upload them, because it's nothing I get pressured to do. So I really hope you learned something today, and you can check in maybe next week. I'll try to make more of these podcast kind of episodes. I'm also trying to get a microphone, but I'm working on that. So I hope you enjoyed, and have a good one. I love you, and see you in my next video.